Loibner-Waitkus.
Okay, I am Alan Loibner-Waitkus, and you're probably wondering, didn't we already watch a video on the exam? And yes, you did. And this, I felt like after watching it and after completing the exam and writing the whole thing, that I probably needed to go over some things, some other things, and I may repeat myself here, and I apologize, but won't hurt to watch both videos. And anyway, the exam. So the question about when it's available has come up several times, and I'll probably make it available relatively soon. The thing to remember, though, no matter when it becomes available, is it does not, it includes from your October 15th reading, so those are the two by Flannery O'Connor, Good Country People, and The Life You Saved May Be Your Own, and everything before that. Okay, so don't take the exam tomorrow thinking you're ready for it if you haven't read those things. Just because it's available doesn't mean you have to take it. I want to put it up there. Plus, I have a lot of students who work ahead and want to get this over with because they have plans coming up or whatever. They want a midterm grade so they can see where they stand in the class as far as those things go. The big thing is it is due October 22nd by 11:59 p.m. Okay, now you have 3 hours to take it, and the reason for this, that's way too much time, but normally I would give you an hour, maybe. There's a couple of reasons there. One of the main reasons is because we have students in the class who have are allowed extended time testing. So rather than have to figure out a way to do that, because I can't set different times for different people, I just sort of allow all of you more than enough time. Use that time to your advantage to go over look up everything. There's no excuse not to. I mentioned that in the earlier video, but there's no reason to miss anything here because you have plenty of time, so don't get in a panic. I'll talk about some of that other stuff later. The areas that will be covered are the readings, and predominantly most questions come from the readings, and in that is my notes. There is included with the readings. You need to watch the video notes because I may mention something that's not mentioned in the readings. I know there are several questions, plus a lot of times I mention specifics that are going to be on the exam. That does not mean you don't need to read. I've thrown in lots of questions that are specific to the readings that I specifically didn't mention things because I want to make sure that you're reading. So this test needs to be a part of that. Also, literary terms makes up the next biggest portion of the exam, and I showed you the videos, the music, the songs and things to look at in the last video, so I'm not going to do that again, but and I'm going to have a separate video for the literary terms and a little bit on the vocabulary that will be posted probably just before this one. The literary terms, not only, now that I've typed up the exam, yes, I do use some from those songs that I gave you the lyrics to on my website. The majority, however, are applications of literary terms to things that we've read in this for the class. And so you need to be able to do both. Identify things maybe you've never seen before, and identify based on what you know from what we've read. So keep that in mind. Now, there are 40 questions, and I may have said earlier they were all multiple choice. That was a lie. After I wrote the exam, I actually put a few true and false. It's predominantly multiple choice, but there are a couple of true and false questions. There are a total of 40 questions. What I do, rather than your essay is 40% of your grade, exams are 20% each, midterm and final, and then 20% is made up of your reading responses. I make everything so that I don't do this weird go back through percentage thing, because then students get really confused and they'll think, I made a perfect score on my midterm and final. How can I possibly have failed the class when I made a 0 on my essay? Because they can't kind of figure out the percentage things. So when I give you back points, what I do is I make everything worth what it's worth total. So each question of 40 is worth 0.5 points each, meaning your score at the end here will be out of 20. So keep that in mind. Don't get too freaked out. If your score pops up and it's a 18, don't be like, oh my God, I made an 18 out of 100. It's 18 out of 20. You can do the math on that to figure out what percentage that is. But the one thing to do keep in mind, the other reason I kind of do this is I think students take things a little more seriously when you realize, each question ends up being 0.5 points of your final grade in this class. Okay, so think of it that way. You miss two, your final grade drops down 1 point for each two that you miss. So you want to take these seriously again and don't fire through them. So what I'm going to do now is kind of take you through how to take the exam online, and definitely you'll want to stick around because I'm going to give you the answer to the first question, which is probably the hardest one, or at least the most commonly missed one on the exam. I'm going to go through your how to submit your or how to take your midterm exam real quickly. So again, we're going to go back as always, open up your browser, okay, again, go through the portal, through your home page, and select, now notice, this is closer to what you're seeing right now. The exam is not there. It won't be available until next week at the very earliest. And again, do not take it until you've read all the way through Flannery O'Connor stuff. So, but what I'm going to do for the sake of showing you is I've got to turn it on. So I'm going to go under exams and I'm going to click here. Okay. Now when you do that, it gives you all the sort of breakdown. You have 3 hours. Once you start, you can't stop. Once you answer a question, you cannot go back. That's key. So if you close out, it's going to save it. And so be sure you have 3 hours to give. And the other thing is, again, don't go to the next question. Once you do, it saves it with no answer and gives you no credit for that question. Okay, so what you're going to do is click on midterm exam. And here we have, again, those same details earlier about, be sure you watch my video notes. There are 42 false questions. You have 3 hours. The test will save and submit automatically when the time expires. If you don't hit save and submit for it, once started, this test must be completed not in one sitting. Do not leave the test before clicking save and submit. And then it's due October 22nd, 2016 by 11:59 p.m. To begin the exam. Click begin. Okay, cancel to go back. So once you hit begin, you better be ready to start, because if you can't stop from that point. So I'm going to click begin. Now, as soon as we get there, this information, okay, is really in the way, because every time you answer a question, it's going to stay there. So if you'll click test information, okay, it will hide that. You can always go back and look at it, but this really gets annoying when you have to scroll down every time and the questions sort of get lost. Again, it delivers them one at a time. Moving to the next question will prevents changes to the answer. Okay, so I told you I'm going to give you this first question for those of you who suffered through the video. In Emily Dickinson's Because I Could Not Stop for Death, how many things are in the carriage? Okay. Now, part of the reason I'm giving this to you is because most of you would miss it, because you're going to say, well, she was in death. Don't forget, the carriage held but just ourselves, death, and the narrator, and immortality. Okay, the carriage held but just ourselves, those two, and immortality. So the answer to this question is 3. Okay, so I'm going to click 3. Now, you can click Save Answer. But if you click on to go to the next question, it's going to take you to the next question. Now, as soon as I go to this next question, I'm going to close out pretty quickly because I don't want you to, see all the questions. I'm already giving you one. That's all I'm going to give you. When you're finished, what you'll do is you will click Save and Submit at the bottom. Okay, and so be sure you do that. And once you do that, it'll immediately take you through every question and tell you which one's correct, what your score is out of 20. Which ones you got, which ones you missed. If you miss it, it'll tell you which one the correct answer is, and in some cases, why. Okay, so I'm done with that one. I'm saved. I'm going to go on to the next one, but I'm going to click out of here pretty quickly. Okay, so the next question pops up, and away that goes. Now, that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, don't screw up, because I'm not really forgiving on this when people are like, call me with excuses on why they missed 87 questions, or, well, there's not 87 to miss, but you get my point. So when you're when you sit down to take it and be prepared. But like I said, 3 hours, you have plenty of time.